don't know why it scares me so much, but it does. Let's do it, you guys. Run, jump, land on the bike. Easy peasy. Bam! There we go. Noise. Not as cool as I thought it would be now that I did it. I haven't been on this thing in like a week, man. It feels like it's been forever. Welcome back, John's Moto Garage. Today, as you can tell by the title, I'm going to be talking about how I got into buying and selling motorcycles, aka flipping bikes. AKA the flipper flopper, otherwise known as selling motorcycles, otherwise known as buying a motorcycle and then turning around and selling a motorcycle. We'll talk a little bit about how I got into that. Before doing that, I got to do some housekeeping though. So a few things. First of all, we're going to be doing rider profile / subscriber profile. So if you sub to the channel and you've got a dope motorcycle, really any motorcycle, we don't care what it is, we don't judge here, feel free to send me pics and a little blurb about what it is, any upgrades or things you've done to it, and just why you like the bike or any crazy stories or experiences you have on it. And we have a few. I'm going to do one today. We'll get our first one kicking off. Before we jump into that though, also the YouTube Moto Flip project, what the heck is going on with that? Great question. I have not abandoned the project. It's just I've looked at like 5 or 6 bikes in the last few weeks and they've all been total busts, man. Complete busts. I'm looking at one tonight. Hopefully that'll pan out. But our budget for the YouTube Moto Flip project is $3,050. As soon as I find something, I will get it. We've got the money burning a hole in our pocket. Check out that video. It's basically buying and selling bikes up to our dream bike. Yeah, I think that's about it. So without further delay, here's our first spotlight on the channel. Take it away. All right, you guys, welcome to the very first rider profile, subscriber showcase, shout out, however you want to call it, on John's Moto Garage. This is where subs send in pics of their bikes. So this one is Mike K. Shout out, Mike. Thanks a bunch for your support. Thanks for sending this in. He's got a super sick Victory Highball. He's over there on the East Coast in Long Island, New York. Here's what Mike has to say about the Highball. Enjoy these pictures he sent in. Again, thanks a bunch. He says, I love the throwback look of the Victory Highball. Kind of like a 57 Chevy Corvette and a motorcycle had a baby. I'm going to steal that because that's the perfect way to put it. I've added 4-inch forward controls, Corbin Young Gun seat, chin scoop, Asani Pro Street turnouts, Power Commander 5, Lloyd Greer installed timing wheel, looped out ECU, and dyno tuned it. Makes 98 horsepower, 120 foot-pounds of torque, makes max torque from 1750 RPMs through 55 hundo. It's got power. I rode a stock one and I could barely hold on, so I can only imagine. I got pics with Lloyd and autographed. Heck yeah. Dyno chart, the real deal. The Highball is a great boulevarder. Living on Long Island, New York, I get plenty of opportunities to ride the beach for sunsets with my old lady. Bam, that's what it's all about right there, enjoying the sunsets. It's all about enjoying the journey. Super sick bike. Personally, I've always been a big fan of the Victory Highball. I had one, and beautiful looking bikes. Victory does an awesome job. Whether it's your favorite bike or not, you gotta give them credit because it's just an original, classic looking motorcycle. Like you said, it's like a 57 Chevy Corvette and a motorcycle had a baby, man. That one's coined by Mike K, though I can't take credit for it. Hey, thanks a bunch, Mike. I appreciate it. I've got about 5 or 6 others already in queue, so just keep them coming. We'll keep doing these subscriber shout outs. All right, you guys, let's jump back to the video. Damn, so there you have it. Victory. Super awesome motorcycles. I love Victories. I've had a few here on the channel. The cool thing with Victory is it's hard to find a bike that comes that custom looking straight from the factory. All right, let's go ahead and jump into it. So how did I get into buying and selling motorcycles? Great question. This may end up being a multi-part. I don't know. It just depends how long it will drag on. But let's start out with my first motorcycle ever. I bought it right after I graduated high school. I had a friend who had been trying to convince me to get one for a number of years, and I finally learned how to ride on his Suzuki DRZ 400S, and I was hooked. Frankly, I'm surprised I didn't start riding sooner. Anyway, I went out and bought a Honda Shadow 600 VLX. At the time, I was really into like the chopper bikes, and for some reason I thought the Shadow 600 was a good one. Bought it, paid $3,000 for it. It had like 2,000 miles. It was a nice bike. I didn't try to negotiate the guy down. I remember looking at it and I was so excited about it. I literally said, dude, this thing is so awesome, man. It's in such good condition. I'm not even gonna offer you anything less.
I had that for a couple years, and I ended up doing a 2-year mission for the church where I went to Argentina for a couple years. That's where I do my Spanish wannabe intros, because I really love the language. I remember that whole 2 years I just totally missed riding, and I would, every Monday when we had our preparation day, they call it, I would be on the internet looking on Craigslist at all the different motorcycles. I rode bikes twice while I was in Argentina, and you're not supposed to ride motorcycles as a missionary, you know, mission rules. And so yeah, I got in trouble at least one of those times. I wonder if this little mirror works. I swear this is the worst mirror. I have no idea if there's a police officer behind me or not. No, I came back and I got engaged to my wifey pretty much right when I got home, and I ended up selling my motorcycle to get a wedding ring. I guess, you know, sometimes when you're supposed to turn into the closest lane, it doesn't always pan out that way. And I learned a valuable lesson selling that motorcycle. I did no research when it came to the market value of the bike. In my mind, I had paid 3,000 bucks for it. I put 10,000 miles on it. I had owned it for a couple years, therefore the bike was worth less. And what that dollar amount was, I don't know how I came up with it, but I listed the bike for like 2,300 bucks. That was the first lesson I learned. I'll finish that in a second. And then second, when I first posted the bike on Craigslist, I did not have anybody hit me up on it. I took a few pictures of the bike sitting in front of a, you know, an ugly wall, and threw it online. Nothing. After a few weeks of no hits, I finally decided to take some nicer pictures. I went and found a decent backdrop, took some pics, and bam, right away I've got people hitting me up about the motorcycle. The lesson I learned there was marketing 101, bro. Really makes a difference how you present the bike. Just simple marketing. So I had a guy come look at the bike, and he brought cash, and he offered me 1,800 bucks cash on the spot. I accepted it. That was the second lesson I learned, very valuable lesson. I realized that for one, people will negotiate or make offers, and for two, it put me in the seller's eyes, or in the position of the seller, and I realized that depending what situation the seller's in, they may be willing to negotiate and accept a cash offer. So the reason those are two important lessons for me is I learned marketing's important, and then I learned that people will negotiate. In other words, just because somebody's asking 3,000 bucks doesn't mean doesn't mean they won't take a little bit less. That would prove useful for me later on when I started buying bikes myself, and how I went into the whole negotiating with those. I'm gonna check out the bike park. I see some people there, so unfortunately we probably won't be able to get a session in. Noise, man. That's a drag. It's spring break, I think, for some people, so I need to get back into mountain biking. I haven't popped a decent wheelie this whole video. I sold that bike, and I didn't have a lot of money. You know, newlywed, no money, no prospects for that matter. I don't know what my father-in-law was thinking letting Jackie marry me. He's probably still regretting that decision. But so I've sold my bike. I'm itching to ride again, and I owed my parents money, but I ended up getting a little bit of money. I came across a little bit of money. I think it was from, like, I don't know, a student grant or something like that. You know, obviously should not have been spending the money in the way I was. And I decided to go out and buy a motorcycle, and this motorcycle was a Honda Shadow 750 Spirit, working my way up. And I basically did everything that you're not supposed to do when buying a new motorcycle. I went there at night. I did a horrible inspection. I don't even know if I took it for a test ride before buying it. I just basically went there and bought the bike. And I went out the next morning all excited to go for a ride. I get out there and I'm like, what the heck? What happened to my motorcycle? It did not look like the same bike I had seen the night before. Rusted out chain. The whole thing was like, man, instant buyer's remorse right there if I ever had any. Another very important lesson I learned. But I ended up riding the bike around for a little bit, and then finally I decided to post it for sale. Only this time I did a little bit of market research, and I realized it was actually a pretty decent deal on the bike. So I took some nice pictures. I learned that from my last one, and I threw the bike up there, and I took a while to sell it, but I ended up selling it for 2,800 bucks. I think I'd paid 2,500, and I made $300 on it. It was a headache. I thought, oh, that was cool. And you know, I bought a crappy bike, but I was still able to make some money on it. I don't know how many, you know, months went by, but I ended up taking the money that I owed. I ended up taking the money and paid my parents back because I owed them. And so I think I went a few months without a moto at that point. Started saving up a little bit of money, and finally got to the point where I could buy another bike, and it wasn't weighing on my conscience so bad. Like from there, I think I bought a Yamaha, or no, I bought a Suzuki SV650. That was a torquey bike, one of the first bikes I tried a power wheelie on, and it scared me so bad I didn't try another wheelie for a long time. I had a Yamaha V-Star 650, and I finally settled on a Suzuki Volusia, which is basically your C50 Boulevard before they made them fuel injected. It was an 03 Volusia, and I learned a lesson on that one too. It had aftermarket exhaust, had not been properly tuned. On my test ride I didn't realize it, but after getting the bike and getting on it, I realized the bike surged. It had issues surging, but I rode it, and it got the job done. I finally settled on that one because I thought it was a cool looking, old beach cruiser style bike, and I commuted on that for a while. Every bike leading up to that point, I wasn't really buying them to sell them and make money. I was buying a bike and kind of figuring out what I liked. I think I only made like, $200, $300, $400 on these first couple of motorcycles. But yeah, it was just one of those things where I wasn't buying bikes to flip them, but I ended up selling them and making a little bit of money. And so in a very organic way, I started to realize that I had a good idea of the market, and I was learning how to do a better job with my inspection process. At that time, in my mind, anybody who bought and sold stuff like cars or motorcycles, you had to be a mechanic. That was just kind of the notion I had of it. And if you weren't a mechanic, then you're just going to get totally screwed. Which, don't get me wrong, you can still get totally screwed, but I was learning more or less the art of the trade, if you will. And I was having a blast doing it, making a little bit of money on the side, and getting to try out different motorcycles. At some point I decided I wanted to get sport bikes. I had a Yamaha R6S that I bought and sold, flipped that one, made like $500. Got a Ninja ZX6R. So that was everything that was going on leading up to the final point when everything was set up just right to where I could get into, flipping motorcycles, you could say, as a side hobby. I had landed a job making, some decent dinero where I was able to actually save up some capital, and I had been buying and selling different bikes leading up to that point, and finally I said, my next bonus, I'm just gonna set that money aside and try to buy a bike and do it just with the intent to turn around and sell it. I remember sitting at work perusing Craigslist, and I ran across a 2003 Yamaha Roadstar Warrior. It was the kind of purple colored bike, had aftermarket exhaust. It was still carbureted for 2003. I wonder if that guy knows his door's open. I saw it. The dude had it listed for $3,000, which the crazy thing is, that bike for $3,000 even now is a really good deal, even being a 2003. At the time, I was like, whoa, I don't know anything about that bike, but I know enough to tell you that's a smoking deal. And that's how it started out. I was looking for those smoking fire sales, like just a wicked good deal. Kind of, I call it the low-hanging fruit, You just see it, and it's probably like, you got to catch it fast, because otherwise a ton of people are going to be after that motorcycle. And that was exactly the case. So I hit him up. I was like, hey, super interested, like to come check it out. I got cash. I got my brother to tag along with me. We drove way the heck out to Santan Valley. It's like an hour and a half away from where I was. I looked at the bike, I rode it around the block. I was freaking blown away. What a beast of a bike. And I bought it. And I think I sold that thing in about a week, and I made $1,100 on it. and I was hooked. I was like, holy smokes. I mean, for one, it feels awesome to be able to make money, you know, kind of on your own in a sense, without relying on a boss or a company or a corporation. And anyway, I was like, man, that was awesome. I got to try out this super cool bike, and I made 1,100 bucks. And yeah, that's kind of where it all started. I think I'm gonna end it there for today. The rest is history, you guys. And fast forward a few days, and we're here at John's Moto Garage. Anyway, you guys, thanks for checking out the channel. I do appreciate the support. I'll do another part 2 at some point, going a little more in depth of, you know, what happened after that. Go over some of the other lessons I've learned over the years, because you definitely learn a lot of lessons, and unfortunately, many of them you learn the hard way. But that's the name of the game. All right, you guys, John's Moto Garage. We'll hit you up next time. Adios.